Well, I'm finishing up some business here in this top five players in each NFL team's history series. If you've missed your team as a part of this series, I'll put the link to the entire series in the description box down below. Today, I'm here to talk about the five greatest Tampa Bay Buccaneers of all time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's a funny thing with this organization. This was an organization for years that was known for their mediocrity, their incompetence, and their flat out terrible play. I mean, you're talking about a team that when it came into the league as an expansion franchise in 1976 went 0-14 and then carried that over to 1977 where they lost the first 12 games of the season. So they started off 0-26 in their organization's history during the first two seasons in the NFL. So this is a team that has occasionally had that glimmer of hope. That '79 team that made it to the NFC Championship game before they lost to the LA Rams. Obviously, the teams of the late '90s and early 2000s, they were a cut above the rest, and the Bucs in recent years primarily have not been that good. They've been a so-so team. So you shouldn't be that surprised to see that this top five list of Tampa Bay Buccaneers players is dominated by a lot of players off of the 2002 Super Bowl team and then a player off of that '79 team, let's just say. Now, in terms of players that were close but they missed the cut here, the ones that stand out to me the most would probably be like Warrick, Dunn, and Ronde, Barber. I almost put Barber on this list, but ultimately I couldn't. So those would be some of the guys that stand out the most. But I'm pretty confident in my top five list in terms of their importance, their significance, and their overall level and talent of play with the Buccaneers. Number five, Mike Alstott, the A train, if you will, a second round pick out of Purdue in the 1996 NFL draft. He spent 11 seasons all with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a six-time Pro Bowler and a three-time All-Pro as a fullback. His statistics alone don't jump off the charts at you. He would average less than 4 yards a carry. He never had a 1,000-yard season. I think he had one season of 10 or more touchdown runs. But what Mike Alstott is he was that presence on the offensive side of the ball. He was that guy that brought physicality. He was great in those goal line and short yardage situations, and he was the identity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the offensive side of the ball for many seasons, and I think that's a big reason why he belongs on this list at number five. Number four, I will go with a player off of that Super Bowl championship Buccaneers team, and I will go to their free safety, John Lynch, one of the best safeties of his time. Spent 11 years with the Buccaneers as a third-round pick in 1993 until 2003. He was a five-time Pro Bowler, a two-time All-Pro. And, when you talk about that Tampa 2 system, that cover 2 system under, guys like Tony Dungy, and Monty Kiffin and Lovie Smith and what have you, their whole big thing was they needed somebody up front, they needed somebody in that linebacking core, and they needed somebody at safety, and that's what they were building that entire defense around. And John Lynch was actually technically the first key component that was already in place when Tony Dungy came in. Yes, you had Sapp and Brooks there, but Lynch is just as much of an integral part of that as anybody else. One of my favorite memories of John Lynch was him hitting Barry Sanders straight up, putting a clean lick on him in Barry Sanders' last year in the NFL. And maybe that was when Barry realized that maybe it's time to go. It wasn't every day that somebody hit Barry Sanders straight up and clean, and John Lynch did that. Number three, I will go back to that '79 Buccaneers team that won their division and made it to the NFC Championship game. And I'll go to the first ever draft pick in the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. That's Roy Selmon, the number one overall selection out of Oklahoma in the 1976 NFL draft. Now, he only spent 9 seasons with the Buccaneers, but he made them good ones. He was a six-time Pro Bowler, a one-time All-Pro, the 1979 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And again, when you're talking about those early Tampa Bay Bucs teams that primarily weren't very good at all, Roy Selmon was that one glimmer of hope. He was that one beacon of optimism. He was that guy. He was easily the best player on those Buccaneers teams during his 9-year career with the organization. And that's why, to me, Pro Football Hall of Famer, jersey retired by the team, belongs at number 3 on this list. Now, number 1 and number 2, I think everybody would assume was going to be Derrick Brooks and Warren Sapp. It's just a matter of what particular order. And the funny thing about it is both of these guys came out of the 1995 draft class to Tampa Bay. Warren Sapp being taken 12th overall and Derrick Brooks being taken 28th overall. It's just a matter of who's number 2 and who's number 1. For me, number 2 is Warren Sapp. Talk about that 12th overall selection in the 1995 NFL draft. He was a key cog of those Tampa 2 cover 2 teams because you had to have that 3 technique penetrating defensive tackle that could collapse the pass pocket of opposing offenses, and Warren Sapp was the perfect guy to do that. But he was more than just that. He was an all-around, complete defensive tackle and football player, and he was, to me, the unquestioned leader of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense of the late 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, exactly. Late 90s, early 2000s. Excuse me. I got a flying around here that's bothering the piss out of me. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time All-Pro, the 1999 NFL Defensive Player of the Year, a member of the 2000s NFL All-Decade Team, of course, a member of that 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that went on to dominate the Raiders in the Super Bowl. He was a part of that 99 Buccaneers team that made it to the NFC Championship game, that came this close to stopping the greatest show on turf in St. Louis and going to the Super Bowl that year as well. Warren Sapp, tremendous player, first ballot Hall of Famer, and well-deserved in my opinion. And then we go to number 1. You go to Derrick Brooks, the outside linebacker out of Florida State, the 28th overall selection in the 1995 NFL draft, the same draft class again as Warren Sapp. He spent 14 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think, in my opinion, part of the reason he's number 1 as opposed to Warren Sapp, he was there longer, he was better for the organization for a longer period of time, and that ultimately was the tiebreaker. You talk about in 14 years, he was an 11-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time All-Pro, the 2002 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. So he was the best player on the best defense in the NFL the year that his team won the Super Bowl. He was a member of the 2000s NFL All-Decade Team, a new inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I think to this day still Derrick Brooks is and will continue to be the gold standard, the measuring stick of teams that run the 4-3 defense and what they look for in a weak side linebacker. Derrick Brooks is all of that and so much more. So just to recap, Mike Alstott, number 5, John Lynch, number 4, Roy Selmon, number 3, Warren Sapp, number 2. And in my opinion, the greatest Tampa Bay Buccaneer of them all is none other than a smallish outside linebacker from Florida State, Derrick Brooks. Let me know what you think of my list. Let me know what your list of top 5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers players of all time is. We got 2 more teams to get through: Tennessee Titans, Washington Redskins, and then the series is over. Thanks, folks.